Welcome back down to Ice Level. As always, I'm your host, James Blennau, and I am excited to be back with you recapping everything that happened this week in college hockey. Without further ado, let's get right into the Ice Level Lowdown and the news of the week. In the home opener, Denver raised its 10th national championship banner to the rafters of Magnus Arena on Friday, making it the most of any men's ice hockey program in the NCAA. The Pios were tied with Michigan with 9 championships before, but David Carl's program now stands alone at the pinnacle of the sport. With all their returners, they also look to be the first team to repeat a national championship since Minnesota Duluth in 2018 and 2019. Conference play is picking up yet again as we enter our third weekend of large game slates, with the Big Ten and Hockey East both playing their first intra-conference games of the year. The Big Ten kicked off with the Ohio State at Wisconsin weekend series, while the Hockey East saw standalone games between UConn and BU, as well as UNH and Merrimack. Speaking of Merrimack, Warriors goaltender Ryan Keyes made his strangely awaited debut for the team on Friday. Keyes posted a 19-save shutout over 3 periods and overtime, stopping all shots in the shootout versus UNH. Keyes is the second rostered goalie to take the ice for the Warriors this year after E-Bug and manager Spencer Marquis started against Stonehill. Max Lundgren was suspended for 2 games for playing a pro game in Sweden, and Nils Wahlstrom remains unable to play due to injury. Let's go over this week's USCHO poll at 1 through 5. It's Denver, BC, BU, Michigan State, and Minnesota, with Denver receiving 48 first-place votes and Minnesota 1. At 6 through 10, it's Maine, North Dakota, Cornell, Colorado College, and Michigan, with Cornell receiving the final first-place vote. 11 through 15 is going to be Quinnipiac, St. Cloud State, Providence, Western Michigan, and UMass, with Omaha, Notre Dame, Minnesota State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin rounding out the top 20. It's time for the game of the week. This week's takes us to Mankato, Minnesota, home of the number 20 Minnesota State Mavericks, as they took on the infamous number 5 North Dakota Fighting Hawks in front of nearly 5,000 fans. Friday night brought us one of the best games we've seen this year, as the Mavs held on to lead throughout 2 periods after 2 goals from their captain, Josh Grohl. Nodak would not go down without a fight though, as just when the third period started, Cameron Berg and Louis Yamernick scored a few power play goals to bring it even. Carter Wilkie just about 10 minutes later would ice it for the Hawks, winning the game on 3 unanswered goals. Sasha Boisvert and Cameron Berg both had 2-point nights, and TJ Septemfelter took home the W with 23 saves on 25 shots. Before this week's upset uproar, let's give a quick honorable mention to Alaska's trap win at number 18 Notre Dame, a massive statement win for the Nanooks. But this week it goes to the East Coast. The Sacred Heart Pioneers went into Amherst and took down the number 15 UMass Minutemen in a tight 4-3 finish. After a quick Minutemen goal by Lyndon Alger, the Pios rattled off 4 goals from 4 different players across all 3 periods. Cam O'Neill and Owen Murray brought UMass back, but it wasn't enough to stop Cullen DeYoung's 33-save night. Mikey Anderson and Reed Pabich both earned themselves 2-point nights, with a goal and an assist next to each name in the stat sheet. I know what you're all here for. It's the cross-conference highlight hub. This week it was road wins out the wazoo. In Atlantic Hockey America, Niagara went 1-0-1 on their trip east to take on in-state opponents RPI, winning the shootout in the first game and taking the second in overtime. Jay Ahern had 4 goals and a Gino for the Purple Eagles on the weekend, while netminder Pierce Charleston finished with 61 saves across both games. The Army Black Knights and Holy Cross Crusaders kicked off their in-conference seasons in Worcester. Although Baron Woodring had the only goal in the Black Knights' first win this year, it was certainly an eventful affair, with Jared Smith taking 2 penalties for the Crusaders and 3 of 4 total coming in the third period. Out of the Big Ten, OHIO, the Buckeyes went into Wisconsin kicking off conference play with a perfect 2-0-0 weekend against the number 16 Badgers, winning both games 2-1. The first game ended in overtime, featuring 2 goals from sophomore forward Max Montez, who continued his strong weekend, scoring the game winner on Saturday in the third period. Bucks keeper Christoph Eberle had 65 saves and 2 goals allowed, holding Islanders prospect Quinn Finley to 2 points on the weekend. In the great state of Minnesota, the number 6 Golden Gophers took the trip to Duluth and swept their former WCHA rivals, posting a wild 12 goals over the 2 games at Amsoil Arena. Connor Kurth posted 5 points for the Gophers, and UConn transfer Matthew Wood posted his first 2 goals as a Gopher, with 1 in each game. Out of the CCHA, Augustana took the trip a few hours southeast and swept the number 12 Omaha Mavericks with a 2-1 win on Friday night and a dominant 4-0 performance on Saturday. Luke Mobley continued his goal streak with 1 in 4 straight games following 2 against the Mavs, and keeper Josh Kotai also posted 67 saves, including a 33-save shutout on Saturday. The Bowling Green Falcons snuck their way through the offseason with little turnover on their team, and after losing to number 17 Western Michigan on Thursday, they took down RIT 2-1 on the road in a standalone game thanks to Gustav Sternberg's overtime winner. The Falcons now take on the red-hot Ohio State Buckeyes in a home-and-home series next weekend. In ECAC hockey, number 7 Quinnipiac went into Orono and got swept by the number 9 Maine Black Bears in similar fashion to Wisconsin, losing the first game by 1 goal and the second in overtime. Friday's game was highlighted by Bobcats freshman goalie Dylan Silverstein's 27 saves, but they were not enough for Rand Pecknold's squad. The Black Bears only lost the lead once in both games as Taylor McCarr kicked off Saturday with a shorthanded goal and Harrison Scott tabbed 4 apples in the game. St. Lawrence ended their homestead at Appleton Arena against Ferris State, and after losing the first game 1-0, they fired back with a massive 8-0 win before heading to Penn State next weekend. 6 of their 8 goals came on the power play, which if it stays hot could be a massive piece against top ECAC teams like Cornell. Greg LaPointe finished the second game with a hat trick, and Thomas Mazura picked up 4 assists, with 3 of them coming on the man advantage. In the Hockey East, as we mentioned on last week's Forecheck Forecast, number 14 Providence headed home to take on the Arizona State Sun Devils, sweeping the Sun Devils over the weekend. Tanner Adams earned himself a hat trick on Friday night's 4-1 win, but the Friars kept the puck distributed with nobody scoring more than a point in Saturday's tight 2-1 win. And number 19 Northeastern looked to spoil number 1 Denver's banner weekend as they celebrate their national championship, but were sent out of the Mile High City with no points. In identical 5-2 losses at Magnus Arena, the Huskies saw 3 goals and assists from Carter King, while Cameron White had 67 saves wouldn't be enough to get within a goal of the reigning champs after the second period all weekend. Wrapping up our highlights, it's number 13 St. Cloud State heading a few states over and trading shutouts with number 10 Michigan. Friday night saw Michigan's Logan Stein stop all 21 Husky shots, while Saturday saw Isaac Posh save all 24 Wolverine shots. The Huskies have a massive homestead upcoming as they take on Augustana in 2 games fresh off the Omaha upsets, and then BC the series after that. And North Dakota split their series after the game of the weekend, Mankato losing the second game 3-0. Adam Isley, the junior Minnesota native, had 2 points in the game to help the Mavericks pull a massive upset over an uber-talented Hawks team favored to be at the top of the NCHC this season.
The Ice Level Podcast is sponsored by Best Damn Tape. Best Damn Tape's mission is to supply the most affordable and elite-level sports tape to athletes worldwide. You can go to bestdamntape.com and use code DanKShow40, that's DanKShow40, to get 40% off your order. Go to bestdamntape.com and order your clear tape, your black and white tape, scented stick wax, and more.
This week our segment is a Rivalry Rundown featuring a relatively small and relatively football-based but long-standing local rivalry. UMass and UConn meet for the 69th and 70th games all-time this weekend, kicking off Hockey East play for the Huskies, who have lost all 3 meetings in the last season, with their last win against the Minutemen dating back to January 2023. The 2 schools first met in hockey on January 7th, 1929, and UMass has dominated the series going 45-18-5 all-time. The 2 have also met 3 times in the postseason, with UConn winning the first 2 and UMass winning the last in 2001. These 2 former agricultural schools and longtime local rivals will also meet a 3rd time, which could also possibly determine bragging rights on February 7th, 2025. Let's check out this week's Forecheck Forecast. Number 1 Denver continues its national championship defense when they take on a struggling number 20 Wisconsin, looking to continue their 4-game win streak, as the Badgers have yet to find their footing, with only 1 win this year coming against Lindenwood. Number 16 Omaha heads to Mankato to take on number 18 Minnesota State in the weekend series for another NCHC-CCHA matchup and the Battle of the Mavericks. Omaha looks to rebound after the sweep against Augustana, and Mankato has momentum in their favor, ending the weekend Number 3 BU will head to North Dakota to take on EJ Emory and the number 7 Fighting Hawks in a weekend series, with the 18-year-old Rangers draftee off to a flying start in Grand Forks. In last year's leg of the home-and-home series, the Terriers split and only lost the second game in overtime, as Cole Iserman faces his toughest test this year so far. And number 14, Western Michigan has one of the most impactful standalone games this weekend when they take on number 2 BC at Conti Forum. The young Eagles team takes on the ever-sneaky Broncos Saturday, as the Broncos enter undefeated and the Eagles start 2-1-0 with the one blemish coming at Michigan State. That's all we have for this week. Thanks everyone so much for coming down to ice level with me yet again. I know these episodes aren't perfect, but it's always fun to post them. Again, a due thanks to USCHO and College Hockey News for consolidating and providing some of the information you've heard today. I'm James Blennau, and I'm not an expert, but neither are you, and we're going to grow the game together. I'll see you next week on Ice Level.